left center field, hit a long way. Out on the run is Liriano, and he makes the catch! An amazing catch! Here comes Ender.
Hello and welcome to Sport and Pastime, the weekly podcast. I'm Prem Panicker.
Hi, and this is Faisal Sharif. Welcome to the show. And what a match it's been. I can't stop raving about Markram, but the whole South African team, the way they've turned this around and won the World Test Championship. For me, easily the biggest prize in Test cricket, in world cricket for that matter. And no one really expected that it would be such a tough and such a close game. Australia seemed the tougher and the better opponent, but South Africa has just come through, and there couldn't have been a more beautiful way to end it. South Africa has won this under its first ever black captain, and also Ashwell Prince is sitting in there in the dressing room as the batting coach, and he was the first ever coloured captain to lead South Africa when Graham Smith and Callis were injured more than about maybe 15, 18 years ago. So, poetic justice, if you can say. What a win, Prem. I'm still very emotional about it.
Absolutely, and I was thinking they won this actually in 2012, which seems to be forgotten, but that was under different rules, right? It was whoever was on top of the Test rankings wins, and
Yeah.
one of the things that I was thinking about before this match began even is that there were two people with impeccable records, and one of them had to lose. There was Josh Hazelwood, who's never lost an ICC final ever, any kind of final that he's been part of.
Oh, yeah.
And there's Temba Bavuma, who's never lost a test as captain. Uh,
Oh,
there's so
yeah.
much
That's
talk about,
interesting.
yeah, and there's so much talk about, South Africa didn't deserve. South Africa played weaker opposition teams like as compared to teams like India, Australia, and all that. And before we get into the match, that is something I want to touch on. South Africa doesn't get to decide its opponents fully, right? I mean, they
True.
take what they can get, and if you look at how the schedule is for the 2025-27 World Test Championship cycle, India plays 5 games against England. It plays 5 games against Australia. It plays 2 games against South Africa. Two. This is the holders of the World Test Championship. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to then say South Africa, played weak opponents, who asked the strong opponents not to play them? Yeah, Australia and England are playing them only in 3 Test matches also.
True.
So yeah, I mean they won this because they deserve to win it, not necessarily just this match, but throughout. And I'm so happy for some of the past greats. Yeah, if you think of people like, Alan Donald, Sean Pollock, Dale Steyn, Jacques
AB
Callis,
de
AB de
Villiers.
Villiers. Yeah, AB de Villiers. I mean, those guys would be over the moon right now because all of this, they say now that everything is built on those who went before. Those
That's
guys
true.
built this, and now we have this result, which I think, like you said, I mean, it's a wonderful result. Uh, in a sense, yeah, you feel sorry for Pat Cummins in Australia because they were building a legacy, and this was the one thing that they wanted to add to that legacy. They've done pretty much everything else. They won the T20, they've won the World Cup, they won the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Uh, been there, done that, and then this happens. But yeah, one team had to lose.
Yeah, it had to. And I think it was, I think they were both good teams, fought really well. But I think in the end, it really showed who was more hungry to win that uh, cup there. And it really showed over there the way they went about after being out for 100 and what 38 in the first innings to come back like that in such a big final really, really shows character. I mean, it's unbelievable the innings that Bavuma played under pressure and in
Yeah.
injury. He couldn't run. I mean, that's unbelievable in such a big game, and you're the captain of the team getting treatment and still staying there for so many hours, batted the entire two sessions, and was there this morning also. I think it's fantastic. It's a tribute to the South African batsman.
Yeah, and it's not just that, right, Faisal? I've been following both the live match and also the surround sound on social media, on various websites and all of that. On Indian social media, after day two, in fact, after South Africa were bowled out, the talk was all about this is what happens when you have reservations. Undeserving people get in there. I hope all those people have at least the grace to. I don't expect them to have the grace to apologize, but I hope they do. But more broadly on the cricket itself, a lot of the commentators, one of the things that they said was that maybe Bavuma made a mistake in asking Australia to bat first. But he actually read the game better because
Yeah,
South Africa got to bat last on a wicket where earlier when we were speaking, you made the point about something that Stuart Broad said in commentary. I remember that moment when he said, "If the
yeah,
sun comes out and the skies are blue, this will be a dream for batting." And
right.
I mean, you could say you got lucky, but remember that Australia also managed to put up the kind of target they did because the batting conditions were good and Mitchell Stark and Josh Hazelwood could actually defy the South African bowlers for so long. So, I
Correct.
mean,
And
a
both the times it
complete
was a
hack.
rear guard action, yeah, in their batting. Both
Yeah,
the times it's a
and
rear guard. The top order failed, the middle order
failed.
kind of
Yeah.
failed.
I mean, the top order, Australia at some point has got to think about how they select teams and how they and I know that they've had a lot of success. But seriously, I mean, to accommodate Cameron Green at three, you move Labuschagne up to number one. He's never opened. You
Yeah,
have Usman Khawaja. I mean, Jasprit Bumrah was taking his wicket for fun, exactly as his wicket fell against Rabada. Outside the off stump, ball
yeah,
moving away, finds the edge, goes into the cordon, out. Uh,
true.
he got back into the side because he played against Sri Lanka and got scores over there. But playing Sri Lanka is one thing, playing against Rabada, Jansen, and the others is a totally different thing. So you have two
Absolutely.
weak candidates opening, and you have Cameron Green coming back from injury without having played serious red ball cricket, and you're putting him in the pivotal number three slot. He had two successive failures. I think altogether he played five balls for two dismissals
Yeah.
and maybe four
I
runs. I
don't know
think.
why they didn't bring in Smith or Head to play in that pivotal position. I mean, when they
Yeah,
had the batsmen
seriously.
of that caliber. To throw
Yeah.
Cameron Green there just
So
because South Africa did something similar. I don't know, it's kind of weird because South Africa did it and it paid off. They got Mulder there, who's never
yeah,
batted in any form of first class cricket at number three. And he kind of did the job yesterday, you know. He kind of did his job and well.
a little.
But the same
Yeah.
can't be said of Green, yeah.
So all told, yeah, I think and
But Prem,
for all.
going back to your point of saying that reservation and you know the whole thing of South African cricket, how they have reservation candidates and you know they choose the team on the color of their skin. I think uh, even if you were hearing the commentary, it was just I think they were also hinting towards Lungi Nagida, they saying that he was you know maybe he was a mistake that he shouldn't have played. And I remember the first two overs that he bowled and the way the commentators were passing judgment that he's not all there, he's not showing the ferocity, his knees are not moving, he's not showing intent, he was just warming up. And that guy goes and changes the game by getting Smith. If Smith had
Yeah,
stayed, the whole game would have been different. You know, I
it would
think
have
the
been.
way they went
Yeah,
after him and Ravi Shastri in typical manner saying he's not showing the intent, you can see it in his, you can see in a bowler's eyes when he runs in and all that. And then I heard, you know, after he got those three wickets, I heard his interview at the end and he said, I was just warming up the first 2 hours. I told my captain, just give me 2 hours to get my eye in my rhythm. Once I get my rhythm, then I'll be able to do all the things that were planned and what was part of the team plan. And it was like, even the commentators, we go by exactly what the commentators say, but they're also so wrong and emotional and judgmental at times that I think everyone must have thought that he was a mistake being there. I think his spell was one of the turning points of the game.
Correct. And see, commentators also have this confirmation bias fallacy that operates, right? You've already decided that Australia are the favorites. So every
Yeah.
little misstep of the South Africans, you will go hard at this thing. I mean, I didn't see too many commentators pointing out, for instance, that late in the evening on the second day, Mitchell Stark was dropped. He was just 12. So yeah, he came back brilliantly on the morning of the third day. He played that rearguard knock, and he played a very untypical knock. I kept when Josh Hazelwood walked out to bat, I was thinking, okay, this guy is going to just throw his bat at everything, try and hit a few fours and sixes,
Hmm.
try and get as many runs as possible. But he played like a responsible batsman would. He didn't play like a tailender
Yeah.
would, or he didn't play the Mitchell Stark innings. He played a batsman's innings, and the
Absolutely.
conditions favored him. The bowling didn't have the bite and the venom, and that should have signaled that South Africa had a chance. But even then, I didn't hear the commentators making that point that the wicket has suddenly turned benign. Stuart Broad was probably the only one who was making the points. The British
Yeah.
commentators were making that point, but not the others. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably were watching some other game, or they had something else in mind. And also about the reservation. Look, whether you agree with reservations or not, you have to admit that a lot of countries go in for this. Uh, you had affirmative action in the US, which was probably what started this whole thing, where they said, that the black community has been uh, suppressed for so long that we have to actually go out of our way to lift them up again. We've had that in India. We continue to have that in India, for instance. Uh, and South Africa, I mean, places where there are oppressed communities, minority communities, or even in this case, the majority community, you have to do
Yeah.
something for their uplift. It can't all be about this thing. What that does to the team, whether deserving white players, uh, don't get a chance. Some of them actually go off and play for other countries, try and qualify for other
Yeah.
countries. But all of that is politics. Yeah, I mean, it is politics. It is politics meets society, and the kind of adjustments that you make for all that. You can't use that to drive your cricket commentary. The team that is picked is the
That's
team
true.
that is representing South Africa. It's not, it is not a reservation team or a whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think in between what they've done that you have to have at least, five colored players in the team, uh, was to only give more chances. And there could be merits and demerits of that argument that you can't push someone just because you need to get to the magic number of five colored players in the team. But I think South Africa's done enough, and I think enough colored and black players have proved that they've
yeah,
earned their spot in the South African cricket team over the years. I mean, South African cricket team, I mean, imagine what it would have been without Mackay and Tini and, players, Herschel Gibbs. Look at all these players,
yeah,
Dumini, Ashwell Prince. They've all had their contributions to the team. And the one thing that really stands out for me, they made a lovely documentary before the World Test Championship, and they were talking about there was a historian from South Africa saying that, like, this is not just cricket for us. This sport is much bigger, and winning for us in this means so many things at so many levels that it's not just another win like any other country would be arguing about the merits, demerits. For us, winning is it brings a lot of unity, and it kind of nurses a lot of wounds of the past. And you have to give it to these guys. They've been away from cricket for so many years. They were almost away for 20 years, but every time they come back, they never look like they were out of it. And that's really something that talks about the talent that's there in South African cricket over the last almost 50 years.
yeah. I mean, South Africa did speak the South Africa of Graham, Peter, Pollock, of Barry Richards and all
Barry.
that, destroyed Australia. Yeah. They've
Yeah.
always had talent, and you were making the point about the South African blacks who have contributed so much. JP Dumini, Makai Nitini, all those guys. You also have to give Temba Bavuma some measure of credit for the fact that the guy has
Oh
never
yeah.
lost a test match. And the one thing that is worth pointing out is the South African team rallies behind its captain. They're not seeing him as a
Yeah.
reserved player and things like that. They're seeing him as their captain. What he says is
True.
what they do. So, I mean, the rest of the people can stand outside and talk all they want. But the fact of the matter is, South Africa knows what it's doing, and they won the mace. Yeah, no argue with that.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. But I find it very, I think Indian fans and other fans who follow IPL and follow more of T20 will be like Bellingham, and all these names for them will be so alien. And today they stand at the zenith of world cricket, having won the World
Yeah,
Test Championship. It just goes to show that there's so much more of marketing and just about optics in world cricket today. That if only you're playing in those T20 leagues is when you're famous and you're known around the world. Otherwise, these guys who toil in whites, play with the red ball day in day out in different conditions, don't even get the recognition. I think it's really 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 a tribute to these test cricketers who've been there, don't get the equal amount of fame despite having as much or maybe more talent than the T20 swashbucklers. But I think that really, I think for me, that's really the victory for Test cricket today. The way these guys have come about, and anyone, if you'd ask anyone who's been watching T20, look at an Australian team lineup and look at a South African team lineup, I think 9 out of 10 would have said no, Australia will win this. Because other than
yeah, yeah.
Markram and Bavuma, I don't think they'd have known anybody else.
In fact, it's funny you said that because yesterday, while I was watching the match, I had a call from a friend of mine who's also a cricket fanatic, and he just wanted to talk about what is happening on the screen and all
Hmm.
that. This was shortly after the South African response began. And these
Okay.
guys, I mean, if you remember, they were scoring at about 80% or so on the strike rate,
Yeah,
21
yeah,
and
when they started.
27, things like that. Yeah, when they started out. And he was like, is this a flash in the pan? They just, in the first innings, they made the mistake of defending too much, and this happened, that happened. And one way or the other, the conversation came to, do you think they have a chance? And I said, look at the pitch. I mean, yeah, Mitchell Stark, as usual, takes a wicket first up. I mean, he didn't actually. Uh, but I was saying, look at the way the ball is coming off the wicket. Yeah, it looks like a day one batting track. Uh,
Yeah.
if they put their heads down, they have a chance. The 280 is not an insurmountable total. So he said, yeah, but look at the team. They don't have the names. And I was like, yeah, that's precisely the problem. They don't
Yeah.
have the names. And what do you mean by names? You mean names that you keep hearing. So I said, try a thought experiment. Name the playing 11 of New Zealand for me. And this guy started with Kane Williamson, and then he managed to name three people. And this is a cricket fan. He's not, some
Unbelievable.
random guy. He's a fan enough to the point where he was sitting and watching this match live. Uh, and he thought to call me and say, what do you think? And stuff like that. And I was like, okay, you can't name the New Zealand players. Why? Because you've only seen Kane Williamson and this guy and the other guy. We don't follow cricket. We follow names, which is exactly the point that you
True.
were making. And I agree completely.
Yeah, otherwise, Callis is easily to me, is the greatest cricketer ever born. I mean, look at his batting averages, look at his bowling averages. Maybe, barring Sir Garfield Sobers, show me one other
Yeah.
cricketer who's kind of achieved so much. It's unbelievable. He's just not been marketed. He comes from South Africa. It's not the big three of world cricket. It's not India. It's not Australia. It's not England. So the media isn't as strong. The advertising is not that strong. The broadcasters are not that big. So Jacques Callis just stays that. Otherwise, I saw a really cool meme the other day where they said his batting average was on par with Sachin Tendulkar and his bowling average and strike rate is on
Yeah.
par with Zair Khan. So basically, you have a
Yeah.
Zair Khan and Sachin Tendulkar in one. And no
One.
one really ever talks about Callis in that way. But I don't see a bigger all-rounder in world cricket ever, current modern era or before, who can match what Callis has achieved. in world cricket.
Yeah, and if you imagine that particular team, which had Alan Donald as a spearhead, but it also
Oh,
had Callis and Sean Pollock. Again, a
imagine.
good all rounder. Okay, with the bat, occasional displays of talent, but with the ball, the guy was good, man. I mean, he was really, really good.
Yeah,
And they keep producing these guys. They keep producing. I mean, Rabada was a revelation in this. Now, he shouldn't be a revelation because we've seen enough of him. But the way he
yeah,
bowled in that first innings was stunning. And he's carrying on the tradition of, say, a Dale Steyn, for instance.
yeah,
Steyn, for me, the one of the best bowlers to just watch, particularly when he was fit and
yeah.
fully
It's
fit.
beautiful.
Superb, smooth run up, and that ball just came at you like
Oof.
at crazy speeds. He was outstanding. So yeah, I mean, the talent that they've produced systematically. And here's the thing, right? We talk about India, Australia, England, all of them playing constantly, playing so many matches against each other. And one of the things that you say in sport is you have to play against the big teams in order to improve your own cricket, right? South
True.
Africa doesn't get to do that to that extent. They don't get to play an India in a five-test series. They don't get to play Australia. Staying, they struggle for finances, and yet there is this assembly line of talent coming through. You thought that
Just
if
coming
if
through.
if yeah, you thought that if Alan Donald, Sean Pollock, Jacques Callis, Graham Smith, all of these guys leave, South Africa is going to be denuded of talent. But then they produced an AB de Villiers, and I mean, it just every generation is
It goes
living up to
on.
the previous one. Yeah,
That's true. That's true. In fact, I think that best thing for Test cricket has happened is that South Africa has won this because now cricket will need to go beyond the big three. It will need to go across. They'll change the itinerary, the schedules. They'll have to give more matches to South Africa. Maybe a five-test series now against one of the biggies becomes due. I think much will change now. It should because it's become very boring just to see an Ashes and an India play an England and an Australia, and that's that for Test. I mean, Sri Lanka doesn't have the same caliber of players like before. West Indies is not a Test force anymore. New Zealand is always there and abouts, but still, I think give a really really big fillip to Test cricket. Don't you think, Prem? Or you are cynical about it?
no, I mean, even from the uh, Reader days onwards, I've always loved your optimism. The thing is that ultimately, look, what drives the ICC is money. The
That's
money
true.
is in the big three. So I don't see any radical changes happening. They'd far rather forget about this result and just go back to business as usual, which is organizing five test matches between any two of the top three, and rake in the money. Because ultimately, look, say what you want about test cricket and what you want. You made the point about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has produced an array of, and again, just like South Africa, for instance, each generation has been good. So I remember watching a Sri
That's true.
Lanka
Yeah.
of, Duleep Mendes, Roy Dias, players like that.
Oh yeah,
And then came, the next generation led by
De
Arjuna
Silva.
Ranatunga with all those. Yeah, Arvinda De Silva, Sanath Jayasuriya, Roshan Mahanama, all those guys. Then came Lanka of Mahela Jayawardene and Sangakkara.
Oh,
And if
what?
you look at Sangakkara's numbers, it's insane. I mean, if you ask somebody randomly to rate the top 10 test batsmen of all time, nobody would pick on Sangakkara, but look at his record. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
phenomenal.
Mahela is one of the best players you can watch. When he's on song, he's devastatingly good.
True.
But now you don't have that coming, and one of the reasons why is because where do you get to play here? Look, Sri Lanka in the coming cycle, they're playing two tests against Bangladesh, two against India, two against South Africa, two against West Indies, two against Pakistan, two against New Zealand. They're playing a total of 12 games, which is the least by any test playing nation. And who are the two teams they never play? They're not playing against Australia, they're not playing against England.
That's unbelievable.
You want the test cricket to develop, And you're talking of, Australia is playing 22 test matches in this next cycle. England is playing 21. India is playing 18. New Zealand is playing 16. South Africa is playing 14. West Indies is playing 14. So West Indies and South Africa are on par in that sense. One is the winner, one didn't qualify. Uh,
Hmm.
and then you have Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are the two teams that are playing 12 games each. I mean, how does this make any kind of sense if you're talking a World Test Championship and all that?
This doesn't look like the ICC making the schedule. It's more like the broadcaster deciding where are the numbers, how is he going to recover all the amount that he's paid. It clearly points to that. There's no cricketing logic to this, or why you would have this.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
why I believe that this could be a pivotal moment because South African cricket will change from here. Their broadcasting rights will go up. There'll be more interest, advertisers within South Africa. I know it's no match to what India or England or the cricket economy is, but still I think it'll make a difference because the advertisers and now the broadcaster, the value will go up to some extent. I know it's not going to be overnight, but slowly, but they've kind of taken that first step where it'll probably be the big four from now on, not the big three.
Probably true. And look, it doesn't have to match India's numbers or Australia's numbers or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever. It just has to be financially viable. And South Africa
correct.
is making some interesting moves in that direction because SL 20 is, I mean, SA 20 is really caught on.
It's a
More
superb
and more
tournament.
interest in that. Yeah, more and more interest in that. And typically advertisers go where the audience goes. There is an increasing audience for SA 20, so that will
Yeah.
also drive up the valuations
Yeah,
and
and
all
they've
that.
got
I
an
forget.
unbeatable combination, Prem. They've got an unbeatable combination in that SAT20 because it's being led by a cricketer, Graham Smith, I mean, giant of South African cricket. And then you've got Sundar Raman, who was,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
man behind the IPL, the nut and bolt man who did everything, who executed everything brilliantly. So that's like an unbeatable combination. And in time to come, value of SAT20 will be something else. And it's good
yeah,
quality cricket, their production value, everything. They're fantastic. It's just that they need
yeah.
to
It
get the
is.
numbers now.
Yeah, it is high quality cricket. I didn't follow the first season, but the last one I watched and I was like, okay, this is, I mean, this is up there with pretty much any league you want to name, up to and
Yeah.
including the IPL.
Yeah. Quality of cricket
So,
is fantastic.
yeah.
Right. So, Prem,
So
just
there's
going
that.
back to the match,
Hmm.
I think we've not discussed the Centurion. I think it's important. He comes from Centurion, and we have to discuss him.
Yeah.
Aiden Markram. What do you make of a guy who just the last month had about 450s in his last 8 IPL games? Uh, was going after everything, hitting anything and everything out of the park because that's the nature of the beast at IPL. And then suddenly you see one of the most solid innings, test innings. How does a player make that kind of a, you know, change? And I just find it baffling. I thought it was phenomenal the way he batted, and he was still going. I think he's got more force than anyone else in any innings in South Africa in Test cricket in the last 2 years. He hits more boundaries than anyone else.
Yeah, the funny thing about Markram is all the time that I watched him, one of the things that has baffled me is why his test average is as low as it is. Because for me, I mean, in terms of skill, in terms of the way he plays, he has a, I wouldn't say he has an impregnable defense. No batsman has. He has a good,
Yeah,
solid defense when he needs it, uh, and he has attacking shots all around the park. Plus, he has that attitude. If the ball is there, he'll go for it, and he plays
yeah,
proper cricketing shots. He's not slogging. I can't understand why he hasn't done better for himself in Test cricket because, in terms of skill, I can't see what is lacking in him.
yeah,
Then it goes back to maybe they're not playing as much, so he's not, able to develop his game. It becomes very difficult if you play one test match now and then another test match 3 months down the line and stuff like that. How do you keep improving your game? nobody is
Yeah.
watching, all of that. Maybe, I don't know what the thing is with him, but he's not a player who should be dismissed uh, purely on the basis of the runs he has scored. He's capable of much better. Hopefully, now that he's
Yeah.
got this innings under his belt, he'll suddenly get a second wind and actually start playing the game he's capable of. But I agree, it was a phenomenal innings, and if he had fallen early, this whole thing would have changed. Stark taking him out
Yeah.
in the first over. Something of that kind had happened. Uh, you would have had a different result over here.
Yeah. Because I think even the
Also, one
mindset
thing
was Mhm.
no, the one other thing I liked about him this morning, as long as I mean, till this morning, it was like these guys are going to just walk through to the target. Then Bavuma fell. There was a bit of a partnership, but when those two, three wickets fell, Cummins
Yeah.
took out one. Hazelwood took out Markram at the end, but before that, when wickets fell, he didn't look like he had any kind of doubt about whether they would win. He was playing his game very
Yeah.
calm, very controlled, and that's very difficult because if you think of all that's at stake, you have the World Test Championship riding on the line, and that too for a country like South Africa with this reputation of choking in every big
Yeah.
tournament, never
Yeah.
being sting and all of that, and suddenly you see wickets falling at the other end. It's very easy to start saying, "Oh shit, here we go again." But this guy
Yeah.
was like, I mean, he was very calm. He was playing his game. He was like, "Haan, ye ho jayega" types.
Maybe the reason is Prem that he's the only World Cup winning captain for South Africa, albeit it's in a under 19 World
Yeah,
Cup. But he had been there. He knows what it takes to win a World Cup, even if it was under 19. But he knew that he seemed solid, and he didn't offer a single chance. It was a chanceless innings.
yeah,
There was
it
no
was
drop catch or
absolutely.
anything that he survived. He was like on top of every ball. He was right there throughout.
Yeah, totally agree. Phenomenal match. I don't know how many people at the start of this cycle would have predicted an Australia versus South Africa final with South Africa to win, but it's a
Yeah,
brilliant result.
really. No,
I'm
I'll
yeah,
put my hand up and say that I wouldn't have even imagined. I wouldn't have imagined that South Africa would make it to the. I thought it would be New Zealand coming through again or whatever. And another interesting thing is that now there've been three finals and there've been three different winners. So New Zealand,
yeah,
Australia, and South Africa. And India, when they had their best players ever with Virat Kohli and all, never managed to win it. And
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it might be a fourth time lucky. Maybe India might get to win it the next time they play with this young team.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at India's schedule. I don't understand how India managed to bottle this chance though, because before that New Zealand game, I remember they needed, I think, three test wins out of eight test matches, and
Exactly.
you would think that for a team like India, that's a cakewalk. They would have
Yeah,
gotten
and more
into
than
the
half of
final.
them were at home. Yeah,
Yeah, the three New Zealand games, you had the five
yeah,
games in Australia, but you had three New Zealand games. Even if you didn't win all three, even if you had won one, that would have left you with two games to win in Australia. You
in
would imagine
Australia.
that this team could have done that. All of that, yeah. I have absolutely no idea how they managed to bottle that chance.
Yeah, it's one that they'll regret because I mean they had one of the greatest batsmen in their side. They had Rohit Sharma. It was a great opportunity for
Yeah,
them to finish and get over the line and give it back to Australia. But well, maybe like AB de Villiers had to celebrate from the stands. Maybe Virat Kohli will celebrate from the stands the next time India wins this.
hopefully, yeah, yeah.
Great, great. All in all,
Speaking
great
of
win.
which,
Was
yeah,
was amazing. Yeah,
yeah. That's it for the TC. As you probably read, we're not doing a match report because that's pointless. We were talking of the highlights, the low, etc. Test series, India versus England coming up, but we also have an announcement that after this episode, Faisal and I are taking a bit of break. The thing is that we've been talking behind the scenes about this format, what else we can do, some of the tools and technologies that can be introduced into this to make it more interactive more than anything else. But the problem has been that, Faisal and I both have lives to lead and things to do. On top of that, we have to record the weekly podcast. We really haven't had the time to experiment with these things to try and crystallize those plans. So we're going to do that over the next few weeks. At this point in time, we can't tell you exactly how many weeks, but we can tell you we'll be back sooner or later. Which reminds me, hit the subscribe button so you will know when a new episode drops. Hit the bell icon so you will be alerted when our next episode drops. Uh, Meanwhile, thank you all for the company and a shout out to Masood Bhai, our producer, who's been helping put together this whole thing behind the scenes, the graphics, the editing, all of
Thank you,
that.
Masood bhai.
And thanks, Faisal, for the company. This is Read of V2. It's been
Yeah,
fun,
Prem, it's
but
been
yeah,
amazing.
we'll have more fun down the line.
Yeah, we'll have a 2.0, which will be much better than this.
Right.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Hit a long way. Out on the run is Liriano.